5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Refrigerator Diaries. Behind the food, I'm your host, Godwin Ihintugi Jr. That is a mouthful. Chef, owner, operator of Yum Village, and I am here with Detroit legendary Sheffield Jones.
I don't know about that, but I'm here.
I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being here. So, for those of you that are new to Refrigerator Diaries, we have a lot of our guests come on. A couple of things that we do. We talk about the food, we talk about Detroit, and we also have you give us a little bit about your most excellent food experience, your most awkward food experience, and later on we'll have a little bit of a share for those on the newsletter of what your refrigerator looks like at the moment.
Oh, hot mess? What does that count as?
Hey, we had somebody who only had beer and condiments inside their refrigerator in the first season, and he said he's just never home. Whenever he came home, he had takeout with him, and so he needed condiments. Our biggest complaint that we've been having is like we forget sauces at Yum Village, so we've been paying attention on that, and it's also a testament to why it's important to have that stuff going on here. So, for those that don't know, why don't you give us a little bit of background on how you came into the city of Detroit?
Well, I'm a transplant, but I'm a long-term transplant. Born in Cleveland, lived on the East Coast, New York, Philadelphia, Washington. Moved to St. Croix as a young child, 3 years old. Grandmother went on vacation, kind of liked it, and we stayed. So since then, all around Detroit, Oak Park, Southfield, etc. My time up in Michigan State. So I'm a Detroiter, but a transplanted Detroiter, but with really, really deep roots. My family is from Detroit, and we came back here, and it is at the heart of what I do and who I am.
Who are you rooting for on Sundays?
Always the Lions, kinda, because you never know. But
Hashtag win pride.
I'm a really big Tigers fan, and we.
Now with the
Oh
worst
yeah,
record, worst record.
yeah. I'm
We're
just
literally the
hoping.
worst team in baseball.
I know, but I'm just hoping for Miggy because we got to leave him something a little bit better than this, and because
Legacy.
yeah, because we actually share a birthday, so
Okay, well, that's
that's kind of really important for him and for me because he's such a great hitter. But always a Cub,
yeah,
always a Cub.
absolutely, absolutely. U of D Jesuit alumnus here. Uh, if you are, definitely reach out to us. We do special things for our Cubs. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that, like, when your name comes to mind. I know you were associated with a lot of different organizations, from Colors, ROC, Hannah House, Operation Able, Community Youth Connect, uh, even most recently. What when people think of you, what do you think has been the biggest driver in what's keeping you going here in the Detroit food scene?
Well, the thing that keeps me going is other people's success. We are a lot of times we're really rooted in our own success, but if we walk out our door and we don't see good around us, what good is our success? And so I like to see other people come with me, before me, around me, and that's what makes my day really shine.
Because I agree with that. Because if you're like, if one person's succeeding, and then like the world is going to hell, what then?
Exactly, exactly. So you're stressed out when you're outside of your space, and if you stay in your space, you're stressed out because you're in that space.
Yeah, my goodness. So what'd you have at breakfast today?
Um, Coffee.
Okay, breakfast of champions. Chef Phil is generous enough. Every Monday at Yum Village, we do training with the kids, training with the youth, training with our staff. We go over open book management, talk about the numbers, and then we have guest speakers come in and talk to the staff. We want it to be an enriching experience when you look at the work environment. It doesn't have to be an oppressive state, where you've got your thumb over someone else. So what you gonna eat for dinner then tonight?
I don't know. I had a bad Uber experience, or not Uber, or DoorDash or something. I wanted some pizza, and it just didn't happen this afternoon. It was a little tight, but now that I'm here in the shipping container, I'll get a chance to check on my boy, Max Hardy, and see what's going on downstairs with Coop. And so I'm assuming that's what I'm going to do for dinner.
Okay, shout out to Max Hardy, holding it down here at the Detroit Shipping Co. If you can, because this is something that we do ask everyone on the show, we'll start with your choice. Can you give us your most excellent food experience or your most awkward food experience? No names, just detail the experience.
Food wise, I don't get out to places, so it won't be anything salacious there. I love what Mike Ransom was doing with his noodles and my boy Andy is Selden Standard. I love his work, but I don't get a bunch of places. And my most excellent food experience is probably, and this is just my grandmother's fried potatoes. Very simple. The potato is my favorite thing in all its forms. And then my most awkward food experience, Lisa Kyle, good friend of mine, Gail Eccles, good friend. I tried to interpret noodle-roni, and the interpretation was horrible. It is the worst meal I ever made.
Okay, all right, taking on accountability for yourself. All right,
it was absolute worst. There was a box and instructions, and I absolutely screwed it up. I don't know how I did it, but it was the worst thing I ever had.
When I was, I think about 16 or 17 years old, my parents had left us alone at the house, and I decided that I was going to take this time to throw down in the kitchen. And so I decided I was going to do lemon pepper wings and pancakes, right? And so these I didn't really know how to cook at the time.
Okay.
And so I thought that all you had to do was just put the wings. So I took the wings, I put a bunch of lemon juice in there, a bunch of pepper, I put just spices that I happen to like the taste of, and I just had them inside the skillet. And just, I was just like moving them. And I tried to do the same thing with the pancake, and so it wasn't working. I just said, I'm just going to try to bake it, So I took it out, popped it in the oven, tried to bake it, and I figured it's still cake, right? It should rise, right? And needless to say, a smoky kitchen. It was awful.
Okay.
But, it happens, it didn't give up.
Well, that's what our world is experimentation. I probably have had more bad moments than just the noodle-roni, but that's the only one I claim. But reality is that if you're going to cook good food, you've had to have some failures, and that's our game. We experiment. We move forward by missing some things. We miss the mark sometimes, and we try to do things that don't work for everybody. And we figure out where we go wrong. Ultimately, we want our food to taste good to everybody, but it's not going to happen. And if it did happen, then I'm looking for a second coming, because that's so rare.
That's
but
the one.
it happens, and that's what builds us, and we learn how to have mass appeal, but the mass appeal doesn't necessarily actually spell success.
It doesn't.
Because it's our experiences what success is. Our experience as cooks, our experiences as eaters. The best chefs are the best eaters, and we are the ones who go out and try things that are a little bit different, that are a little bit out of the way, and that we can actually formulate something new because our experiences are what form our cuisine. Our life story is the lifeblood of our standards, but when we stray out of that is when we actually become creative.
Hmm.
And I am one for who believes in cooking our family's food. I don't like appropriation,
Hmm.
but I do like exploration.
Okay.
And we have to look at that and be true to that because inside the world of privilege, it's really easy to make money off of someone else's food. And I say this and I get in trouble for it, but cook your grandmother's food. Do that. Explore outside of that and don't exploit your privilege.
Hmm.
And a lot of us chefs, we exploit our privilege.
It happens. Yeah, it
And, and,
happens.
and, it, and it's kind of sad. And I understand that someone else's food tastes great, but explore that inside of your world and create a new realm, but don't exploit other folks because you might have more opportunity than a street food vendor from somewhere across the world. And take some of that, but don't live on that.
Hmm. There's when you start to get into ethical sustainability of brand, conscious and intellectual property, and how that's implemented into markets. A lot of that opens up a bit of conversation for me. One stance I will take on that though is that I do agree that the food you're cooking should have some actual tie to you. Like I think that
Exactly.
you know I cook a lot of the recipes that I grew up eating with my family, and then I've also adjusted a lot of my recipes based off of just experiences
Hmm.
and life and whatnot. Hence Mafe French fries and, and things like that. But I don't see myself doing sushi just yet. But I might try an Afro sushi out. Well, maybe
Right,
after I've kind of mastered what I got going on with
right,
the
right, right.
the Afro. So before we get in the break, I want to do a industry do's and don'ts with you, but I kind of want to get a little creative because the rare thing that a lot of folks don't realize about us in the kitchen is that we also get to be guests as well. We so in a sense, we almost have like this, like, oh, this is what you do and don't do from the kitchen side, but then on the guest side, you ever hear that like etiquette things like
Yeah.
you got any of those for us?
Well,
Top five.
on the let's explore both of them. On the guest side, um, viewing someone else's food. This is a don't from your lens. And if I would have, if I cooked this, I would have done this, and that's horrible because you didn't cook it. Just enjoy it and expand your moment beyond your interpretation of the moment. Kind of try to live through what the cook, the chef is trying to do. And then on the industry side, um, wow, that's hard because there's so many don'ts.
There's a lot of don'ts.
Yeah, we're in an industry where you can really screw the moment up, and
Oh, we're gonna come for you next. Don't worry.
but it's a big don't is don't beat yourself up for the failures in the moments where you're not quite right. You take those moments and you really kind of live inside of them, figure out what it is that you did wrong because we make mistakes and then adjust. And then the biggest thing on top of all of that is don't let it get you down. because we all have our failures. We all have our moments when not quite 100% right, but that doesn't mean you're not meant for the kitchen. When you're not meant for the kitchen means when you're not ready to keep going. And that's
Exactly.
the moment. That's when you know you're not ready to cook.
You got any don'ts for us, though?
Excuse me?
I was
Me?
Yes.
Oh, you're putting me. Oh, kitchen don'ts. I
putting
don't.
you on the spot.
I don't think I
there.
could top that. No. Yeah.
Putting you on the
Well,
spot.
no,
That could be
you,
applied to any career, really. Yeah.
well, you know what? As I'm assuming because you're our engineer, you're not a professional cook. Maybe, maybe not.
No.
But what is it that makes you the most afraid when you're cooking for other people? Not just for you, but for other people. Let's put it like that.
Well, I know what I like, and I
Okay.
know that other people may not like what I like, because I don't eat a lot of meat or fish, and I'll try to make things for friends or a boyfriend, but like I don't know, it's always a gamble. Your feelings might get hurt. You know.
Well, you know what? Well, what I would say to you is don't be afraid. And I would put that to even the professional cook, chef. I would put that to the amateur. Don't be afraid because sometimes in these moments you might find some great successes. You might find something new because not even all of us professionals are the ones that find the first step forward. And so I would encourage you to be not afraid.
Oh well, thank you.
Be not afraid. Do no try. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get those do's, and then we'll go into more on Refrigerated Diaries Behind the Food.
All right.
Sweet, sweet.
Cool. I got to plug it.
my name, but I was like,
Yeah, I got to plug in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a
absolutely.
plug over there?
This right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool beans.
You got confirmed juice?
Yep.
There you go. Got the rip here. So we're gonna take a couple pictures of you too.
Okay.
With the hat, mic, and all that, you know. Doing
Okay.
so,
Cool.
all right. Do you want to do headphones on or off?
It's up to you, bro.
Let's do both.
All right.
All right, we'll do a couple. All right. Yeah. Okay. And then do a couple off.
On still?
Yeah, you can take them off.
All right.
Okay. Got that. This. Okay. And then I wish we could grab that on the air sign. Reach it. I can't reach it.
There's one behind
Oh,
you.
there we go. There we go. I didn't know that. All right. Let's see if we can get that on there.
Oh. Hold on 1 second.
All right.
How about that? We got you.
That's good. That's good. On the air. Cool. Thank you. Very fun. All right. I'll take a couple of quick bites here, and then we can go right into it. So we're going to talk about those dues. Ellen, I'm going to ask you as well, and then we'll go right into the gig economy and tech as it affects small businesses.
okay, you let me know when you're ready. Okay, coming back on in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. We are back on Refrigerated Diaries Behind the Food with the illustrious Detroit chef Phil Jones, your host here, Godwin with Yum Village. We've got Ellen who's going to be letting us know her do's as well. So let's get back into it. We were talking about some do's and don'ts in the restaurant industry, both from the kitchen side and the guest side. We had a couple don'ts. What are some do's? Start us off.
Ellen, or is it on me?
I got to brainstorm. I don't work in the kitchen. Yeah. Well, would this be coming from a customer's perspective?
Yeah,
Like,
sure. Give us a do.
do be nice to your wait staff. You think you wouldn't have to say that, but
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
I literally have 50 years in the industry, and I've seen horrible, horrible customers, and there's not an understanding and an empathy for servers and people who work in kitchens. And we understand that your day is your day, but don't let your day affect everyone else's day and make the experience a lot less than it can be, not only for the server but yourself. Let go. My God, your day was horrible. Stop it, please. You don't take it out on someone else.
Woosah.
Yeah, exactly. Because you've got people who are trying to make a living. They're just trying to be there and service you. And my Lord, don't be the thorn on the plant, on the rose here.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I also think that we should be mindful. Like, definitely be mindful. Do be mindful. And this is gonna segue a little preview until we're going into next. But Amazon and Grubhub and Uber Eats have made it unrealistic for us to sustainably operate as small business owners. Delivery is not $2 or free. It's not. It simply isn't. It's only that way because these companies have put just billions of dollars into a lost market, which means that in order to create revenue within the industry, they're willing to take a loss until eventually that loss no longer is a loss anymore. To my understanding, it's still operating at a loss, but the ones who suffer are us because you guys get all those fees. We charge like $9-10 for our food, and then we got like $8 fees on there and things like that. So definitely no, that's not us. You want to support small business, then do that. Come by. And if you want delivery, just know that you're supporting a small business who is giving 30% of that gross, not net, to Grubhub in order to get that delivery to you.
Yeah. Very coincidentally, I had a delivery experience today. Ordered a pizza from one of my favorite places, and the order.
What's your favorite pizza place?
One of my favorite pizzas, but in the pantheon of great pizza, I'm gonna say Supino's. I love what Dave is doing there.
Love it.
Hands down, that's one of
Can't
the
wait
best things
for you
ever.
to be our neighbor.
Exactly, he's coming into Midtown, but we ordered from Buddy's today. And, that's like one of my standards for Detroit pizza. But
Detroit staple.
the system made it bad. My pizza got delivered to somebody else.
Oh, no.
And then the redelivery was 2 hours.
No.
And so these great big delivery systems are great and they're convenient, but when they don't work horribly. And then they don't reflect well on the business and the local business who has done a great job to do their thing. And the system isn't reflective of community. We need to make sure that local food is the key to stuff. Come down out of your apartment or walk down the street from your house. We are so far apart from one another. And it really doesn't reflect well in our food and our systems of conveying good food and conveying good neighbors and all these kinds of things. And we're so disjointed now. So that's an issue.
I remember growing up and eating family dinner. And one of the most prominent memories about that is that we got to. That was a time where you got to know what was going on in people's lives, or get to learn something new about someone because you're still kind of going through your day. It's a shame that when something like community that food represents is getting taken away by the convenience of delivery models. I blame
Yeah.
Amazon. I'm going to start saying it's Amazon's fault every time. For all things. So, segueing into our next topic here is it's just that some of the topics we're talking about you can find on Hanging Out in the D, which is a local news publication that circulates regularly in print and online. So, we'll read this one out. The impact of technology and the gig economy on small business owners.
Oh my God. I am so torn with gig because, in actuality, as a caterer and an event person, I actually am a gig person, but it's on a larger scale. But it is so damaging on a small scale because we don't create relationships inside of our workspace, and we don't create actual financial continuity. And what happens with the gig is that we deflate unions. We deflate the cohesiveness of a team, and it actually plays into our separation. I look at our phones and the internet, and all these things make for isolated people, and the gig economy isolates economics. And then when we are economically separated, we don't have power. And that is something that we need to keep in mind. Yeah, it gives us freedom, but how free are we if we don't have someone that has our back? And we're looking at right now the UAW is striking at GM, and that couldn't happen. And some folks don't like the unions because of corruption, et cetera, et cetera. But we have a 5-day work week because of that. We have safe working conditions because of that. And so when we look to disrupt that system, we have to look at the fallout. And the fallout is we don't have the power of numbers because we're isolated and we're fighting fights on our own, and that really does not make for a great workforce. And that's the thing that we have to take into consideration.
You're absolutely right. A couple things happened over the past week. Number one, I may have mentioned this previously, but Costco now uses a self-service kiosk in their concession stands, right? And you've definitely need to pay, so you've got to pay a membership to shop at Costco, and even a company with that business model in place is employing self-service and automation. But additionally, I came across an app called Snapshift,
Mm.
and it's the first of what I feel will be many until one becomes the master race that attacks and it's the Uber of service, right? And the way it works is, I post my shift, a range of what I'm willing to pay, and then the person comes up with whatever their rating is, and then I book that person, and then they show up and do the shift, whether it's saute or dishwasher or however. And as I sit around and talk to some folks, we got people who care about their people, but you also got the ones who objectively speak about the numbers. The payroll tax is now cut, your workman's comp is cut, your overall labor, if it can remain consistent, now is cut. But these costs now are starting to get removed, and you no longer have to really. It kind of takes you away from the mind frame of even thinking of a team. The gig economy is almost like it's forcing this way of life into everything, even with cars and Uber drivers.
Exactly. Um, there is something to be said for professional development. And professional development doesn't happen if you're all over the place. So you might have a range of experiences that might make you exciting and titillating, but there's something that's to be said about the team and the consistency. I like going to my favorite restaurant and seeing my favorite server and looking back and seeing who's back there because that gives me a sense of comfort. I even look at the Seinfeld episode where George gets the soup and he's got the rubber band in the soup and his I don't know, his Jose's in the background and he's back there cooking. Great, there's a sense of comfort there. But if we are so replaceable, what is our value?
Right.
We're only worth X amount of dollars at a certain time of day, and so that devalues all of my life experiences. And who am I? And what am I all about? And none of that stuff matters. Whether or not I care about the person that works next to me doesn't matter anymore. And so our food, our creativity as a chef, it becomes robotic, and that sense of not being anything special, not being important to a team, not being important to a system of stuff, and just plug and replace, and that really defeats the purpose of someone like me. I create for a team. I create for people, and there's a certain story that I'm trying to tell, and I can't tell that story if we keep replacing the brush. The colors, the palette changes every day, and you can't be who you were yesterday if all the pieces get replaced and are replaceable and easily plugged and played. And it's disturbing. But let's just talk about the the finances of it all, the business of it all. It doesn't give stability to people and places, and we can't build and grow. And it gives the power to everybody else. Inside of food, I find power. I'm a solo person in life as far as the way I feel. I'm a shy, introverted person, and my expression is in food. But if you keep changing the colors that I'm putting out there, it's not my food anymore. And so it's all these things are really, it's disturbing because people, places, and things don't matter anymore. It's just what we can put in there to achieve an end. And it's convenient, but we need to be more than convenient. We need to be more than just pieces in the game. We need to actually be a part of the game.
Right.
And we need to have some continuity, and we need to have some equity. And equity is where you don't, what you don't get when you're just a piece in the puzzle that can be plugged in and it changes. We have puzzles and only one piece fits in, but we're talking about everybody looking like that piece, and that's really disturbing.
No, indeed, indeed, indeed. So, one, we're almost out of time, but I want to kind of go into a couple things with you before we wrap. So, we know what your refrigerator looks like. How do you go grocery shopping?
Um, Most of my grocery shopping is leftovers and stuff from things because my life is so frenetic that I'm in constant motion. So I make up stuff and I eat leftovers a lot. I just did this initiative with a friend of mine, Danielle Todd, called Make Food Not Waste. And I'm not the best emissary of that concept because I run into a lot of food and my life is so hectic, but it actually formulates a lot of what I actually eat for me as sustenance. Um, so I just take it. I wind up just making stuff because what do I have left over? I've got a little bit of this. I have some stuff I brought from an event, and so I have a lot of weird creations. Um, so that's what groceries look like to me. It's what I've got from what I work and what I'm doing. Um, it's so rare that I go grocery shopping and take a list in. Because if I did that, I would have way too much food. Way too much food.
Copy that. So we got the Pistons official practice is October 7th.
Okay.
They're going. I had the opportunity to take a picture with Sekou. I'm so excited that the Pistons are going to make the playoffs past round 2 this year. I'm calling it.
Okay.
But I say it to say that with the Pistons practice facility opening, it will also mark the second phase of the 3-phase Plum Market strategy to implement downtown Detroit. Their goal was to place 3 of the Plum Market urban models into the Detroit area, and from what I understand, the one that was built downtown was significantly different from the one that was built inside the Piston Stadium, but because of how successful that model has proven, construction and build out was changed to match what was put inside the downtown location here.
We buy food. We've been buying food, and I'm just amazed that operations organizations like this, and previously before Whole Foods became Amazon, realize, as Plum Market is doing now, people in Detroit buy food. We had over $200 million of leakage per year in food purchased by Detroiters outside of Detroit. And lo and behold, someone said, if we made this a little bit more accessible, we might get those dollars. And it's a glorious day that people have understood it and recognized it and reacted. But it's sad that it took so long. I've been eating. I'm a big boy. I've been eating, and it's just amazing that no one wanted to sell me food. I think my dollars spend just as anybody else's dollars do.
Big facts. Big facts. Well, I'm thankful that drive to get something from a grocery store outside of Honeybee and the regulars here in Detroit isn't as far. Thank you so much for coming on the show here. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And when we see you next time on Refrigerator Diaries, Behind the Food, we'll be talking about our next topics here on Hanging Out with the D. And I can't wait to talk with you guys soon.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely.